Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker. All right, everyone, welcome to episode 104 of Tokyo Wave. We're your hosts, Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
To get us started, here are this week's top news highlights.
Kyodo poll predicts Japan ruling coalition to secure majority in July upper house race.
2 left ill after suspicious liquid sprayed inside Greater Tokyo area train.
Drunken Japan City subcontractor loses memory drive containing the personal info of all of its 460,000 residents.
This week in Japan. Kyodo poll predicts Japan ruling coalition to secure majority in July upper house race.
Kyodo News has released the result of a new poll predicting that Japan's ruling coalition is projected to secure a majority of the 125 seats up for grabs in the July 10th House of Councilors election.
The poll suggests that the pro-constitutional revision camp, including Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's Liberal Democratic Party and some small opposition parties, will remain a 2/3 majority in the 248-member upper house needed to initiate any amendment.
For the upcoming election, 124 seats, 74 in electoral districts and 50 by proportional representation are contested, together with 1 left vacant in the lower house.
The LDP and its junior coalition partner, Komeito, are projected to win more than 63 seats, according to Kyodo's telephone survey of over 38,000 eligible voters.
Prime Minister Kishida has set the goal of the coalition maintaining a majority in the upper house. With half of the 248 seats in the upper house uncontested, the target only requires them to win a total of 56 seats this time, down from the 69 seats they had before the election, setting a low bar for success.
The LDP is expected to obtain 60 or more seats, up from its 55 contested seats, and including the 19 seats it will likely maintain in proportional representation.
Komeito appears set to hold firm by maintaining 7 proportional representation seats in play, and it seems likely to hold 7 electoral districts where it has fronted candidates.
But the race has still room for significant change. In the survey, 31.2% of respondents said their vote is undecided in electoral district votes, while 15.4% said the same for proportional representation seats.
Our American listeners and some of our Japan listeners for that point might wonder, what in the hell are proportional representation seats?
Parker, what in the hell are proportional representation seats?
Well, thank you so much for asking. So basically, proportional representation in a nutshell is when voters go to the polls, they vote for some person in their local district, so they write in their name. They also write the name of the political party that they support for proportional representation. And so by that collation of all of the votes across Japan for proportional representation, the parties who got more votes from each individual voter get a higher proportion of seats that they can allocate to members who don't have a district of their own.
Okay.
So basically, this creates a system where candidates who, because of the numbers or because they're not that popular or a new face or whatever reason, cannot win in a local district, they can still win on their party's popularity through this proportional representation system.
So, Parker, to be honest, I still don't get it 100%.
So let's say you've got 100 people who vote.
Okay.
And 50 people vote LDP.
Okay.
And then 25 people vote for Komeito.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the other 25 vote for the Democratic Party of the People.
Okay.
So let's say there are 8 proportional representation seats.
Mm-hmm.
4 of those would go to the LDP proportional representation candidates. 2 would go to Komeito, and then 2 would go to the Democratic Party for the People.
Right.
Thus, proportional representation.
Ah, okay. So it's basically,
It's math!
it's snapped like perfectly. Or is it?
Well, it doesn't snap perfectly. Obviously, there are some anomalies in the system, but more or less.
Or I should say clamped. But interesting. Okay, I didn't know that's how it worked here.
Yeah, it's different from our American system where our political candidates just shoot at each other and the one left standing wins. So opposition parties are likely to limit their gains as they struggle to field unified candidates in single-seat constituencies.
The Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, the biggest in the camp, could possibly return fewer than 20 of its 23 seats currently held.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the opposition parties this time around. They really haven't gotten a lot of media coverage, and their platform doesn't really come across as something magical or something that's going to capture the public imagination. At the same time, the Prime Minister has a high approval rating. His response to COVID and his economic sort of recovery plan have been more or less highly regarded by the people. So your average voter has little reason to say, screw those guys, I'm going with the opposition.
Yeah.
Who I know absolutely nothing about. Which is usually what happens in Japanese elections.
Right. This is also something that's just completely polar opposite from the U.S. I mean, you would never see in the U.S. Like 20% Democrat or Republican. It's 50-50. It's like so. I mean, like, there's so many reasons for this, right? But it's always just 50-50 all the way through.
Well, it's interesting because obviously we have a free and open press, and you hear opposition candidates on TV, you see them on the news, and they say things, but it's usually in response to something that the LDP is doing. So the opposition is always sort of against whatever the LDP is doing. So if the LDP is doing something that's unpopular, and the opposition can sort of piggyback on that and say, that unpopular thing that the LDP is doing, we're against it too, then a lot of people will say, yeah, screw the LDP, we're gonna vote for the opposition.
Right.
But the main issues right now, COVID and the economy, are basically getting taken care of well in the public's eye by the people. So there really isn't that rah, bang, bang effect for the opposition.
That's a good point.
Another thing that might be a little bit interesting for at least Americans is that the politics of Japan are not very polarized. It's not about like social issues. It's not like somebody's against gay marriage and other people are for gay marriage. The LDP obviously is kind of push back the idea of allowing gay marriage, but opposition parties have sort of accepted it, and some of them have kind of made a stance sort of supporting LGBT marriage, but it's not an issue that's really debated about in Japan. People aren't, going out to the streets saying, yes or no, or we don't know.
Right. Things aren't as politicized here as they are in the United States, for example.
I mean, for instance, I think it would be great if we had gay marriage allowed in Japan, but obviously it's just one of those things that doesn't have the sort of public movement behind it that would be required in order for, of course, the ruling coalition to say, oh damn, we gotta do something about this, or we're gonna lose our support.
So the Japan Innovation Party, or Ishin no Kai, could be on course to more than double its 6 contested seats to 15, while the Democratic Party for the People may struggle to keep all of its 7 seats. The Japanese Communist Party looks set to retain its 6 seats.
Yeah, Isshin no Kai is like, if you thought the LDP was conservative, Isshin no Kai is like conservative mainline.
Dude, their naming conventions are like polar opposite. Like the Liberal Democratic Party, you would expect them to be very liberal. And then you got the Japan Innovation Party, but they're more conservative than the LDP. This is so confusing, you know?
Welcome to Japan. And we have a communist party, you know?
Yeah.
With like a big red flag.
Don't forget about that.
One of the few democracies in the world, I think it's actually the only democracy in the world that still has an active communist party that's called the Communist Party.
Oh, yeah. It's totally nuts.
They're really popular among farmers.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Farmers love communism. Fun fact.
All right, and up next, 2 left ill after suspicious liquid sprayed inside Greater Tokyo area train.
The Mainichi reported that 2 people fell ill after a liquid was apparently sprayed inside a train on the Tobu Noda line in Chiba Prefecture.
An emergency call was made from inside the train at around 6:15 a.m. on June 24th saying, "There was a strange smell and it looks like some kind of liquid was sprayed."
The incident caused 2 people to fall ill. According to the fire department officials, one of the people, described as a female aged between 10 and 19, quite a range, complained of pain in her lower abdomen. The Tobu Railway Company stopped the train at the nearby Nodashi station and asked all passengers to get off. Chiba Prefectural Police said they do not believe the liquid is poisonous. However, they are continuing to investigate the case.
According to the Tobu Railway, the incident occurred on a regular train traveling between Kashiwa and Omiya stations. Operation of the Noda line, also called the Tobu Urban Park Line, was suspended in some sections due to the incident. So, you know, Parker, I think this is especially frightening because one of the biggest domestic terrorist attacks in Japan was
1995, the sarin attacks on the subway.
Right. Was that a spray or was it like a bomb? Or?
Well, so what they actually did is they carried garbage bags full of poisonous sarin gas.
Oh my God.
Downstairs into the subway.
Yikes.
And got on the cars and then basically poked holes in the bags.
Whoa.
So it's kind of like a suicide attack because, like, obviously, if you release that bag and you're in the train car too, you're also pretty screwed.
Man, that whatever's in that bag, the sarin gas. I mean, if you're talking about one Japanese-sized trash bag, it's not that big. If that much sarin gas can do that much damage, that's terrifying. You know, this case I'm sure probably brings back a lot of
Yeah, it's a scary thing. And so for people who are not aware with the 1995 attack, so the poisonous chemical weapon sarin was dispersed in 5 train cars on 3 subway lines that passed through Kasumigaseki Station, i.e. the capital of the government in Tokyo, right in the middle of the morning rush hour. And as a result, the attack killed 13 and injured more than 5,800 people.
5,800. Wow. You know, this is one of the reasons too why I think a lot of people are, you know, not so big on public transport, you know, and the trains. When stuff happens here, it tends to happen on the trains, right?
Well, I mean, you know, remember that guy who was dressed up like the Joker and he caused a big stink and
yeah.
It's just, you know, every once in a while. I think for the size of the Tokyo metropolis, we have relatively few train-related violent incidents.
That's compared to like the U.S. and shootings, for example.
Maybe God, imagine guns on trains.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like it would end well.
No.
But the New York City still has a subway system.
Yeah. I think New York has stricter gun laws. Some people from New York City are probably shouting, "No, they don't." I'm not sure. I need to look it up.
You can still, drive up from Florida up to New York City with all your guns.
Yeah. No, you just made an interesting comment. Imagine guns on the train. It's unimaginable. I mean,
I don't think Japan would take well to guns.
No way.
People do get into fights with each other on the trains.
Oh yeah.
Especially when they're drunk.
Oh yeah.
But it's always like a shouting match, and sometimes they beat the crap out of each other, but usually it's just shouting. There's very few times it actually devolves into fisticuffs.
I think my first year in Japan, I remember going out all night to like Ageha or something, getting on the train on the way back. It was like 7 a.m. and two dudes next to me were so wasted. Like they couldn't even stay awake, and they saw me, and one of them pushed me and like really pushed me hard. And I'm like, it's my first year in Japan. I'm a foreigner. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything, because if I do anything, it's all going to be my fault. But man, those guys were like, just, yeah, like you said, like it's always 6, 7 a.m., which sucks because that's when the morning rush hour is too. So you've got like, the guys that were out all night drunk on the trains with all the business people. It's just the worst time to be on the trains,
Yeah, it really is. And it reminds me, like, driving in the morning, going through Kabukicho and through Shinjuku, Nichome, and seeing just people pass out on the street.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, whoa, what happened to those guys?
At the station next to my house, every Friday night, there's 3 ambulances just waiting, because somebody always passes out, and I think they're not sure if they're alive and breathing or not, just from a nomikai on Friday night, right?
I could just imagine like the train person runs out and he's like, ambulance, somebody call an ambulance, and the ambulance guy's like, nah, you're cool, we're waiting.
Yeah, they're literally waiting there. They've got 3 ambulances, and it's
Japan, prepared for everything. Well, speaking of drunken antics, up next, drunken Japan City subcontractor loses memory drive containing the personal info of all of its 460,000 residents.
The Mainichi has also reported that the western Japan city of Amagasaki said on June 23rd it has lost a USB flash drive containing personal information on all of its roughly 460,000 residents.
The lost data included residents' names, addresses, dates of birth, and the bank account numbers of welfare-receiving households, among other things. There is no evidence of data being leaked so far, according to Amagasaki City in Hyogo Prefecture.
An employee of a company commissioned to assist the city's rollout of COVID-19 relief funds lost a bag that had the flash drive inside after getting wasted at a restaurant on June 21st, the city said.
The employee reported the lost bag to police the following day. The data was encrypted and protected with a password, according to the city. I'm sure the password was something like 123456.
Yeah, for sure. The city said in a statement, "We will thoroughly ensure security management when handling electronic data. We will work to regain our residents' trust by heightening awareness of the importance of protecting personal information."
Yeah, and why in the hell was a subcontractor allowed to have a USB drive outside of city property in the first place anyway?
Why are they using USB drives to store personal data?
In 2022!
Yeah, this is a whole Japan Inc. and this is a black hole, right? We can talk about this all day.
They couldn't put it on the cloud. They had to put it on a USB drive.
The cloud's not safe. Don't trust Google. I've been at companies and they refuse to use Google Drive.
Yep. Meanwhile, they'll put stuff on a flash drive and they can go out partying.
What about that flash drive you can buy at the convenience? It's like 900 yen, and let's just put everything on there. It'll be easy, right? Hey, boss, that flash drive you told me to buy at the convenience with everyone's personal data. Lost it last night. Got a little hammered, It was a wild night. I called the police. I'm looking for it, so it should be okay.
I'm gonna look for it, boss. I promise, but I'm kind of covered in vomit right now, so give me a couple of hours.
No, but I mean, we've talked about this somewhat on the show. This is just a really low-tech country. You know, like they probably had it on the cloud, but they USBs are still really big here. One of my friends, she saves all of her pictures on her USB, right? And keeps it as like a database for all her pictures. USB drives fail all the time too. They go bad very quickly, right? The small USBs that, if you want to print something at like a 7-Eleven or Lawson or Konbini here, normally USB is the way to go. I put some documents and like presentations on a USB and we'll use those printers, but sometimes it doesn't print correctly, and sometimes the USB can't be read. If it's been stuck in your pocket, if it's like raining outside and your pocket gets moist at all, the USB's crap, it won't work anymore. I mean, definitely not a good place to store any kind of data, in my opinion.
Unless you want a really easy to lose place to put the data, in which case, USB drives are awesome. Billy, where's your homework? I lost the USB drive. My dog slobbered on it.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't even think a teacher would take that excuse now.
No. I mean, iPhone penetration is so high in Japan. Do people not use Google Drive? It's so nice. Yeah, the app is really nice too for storing stuff.
I guess not in that part of Japan.
Yeah.
They haven't sent their Drive ambassadors with their ambassador black cars full of ambassador pork broiling money.
I mean, we're not sponsored by Google Drive, but damn, that thing is fast. I use it so much now for gigantic files even.
Yeah, Google, thanks for getting me this for what? Yeah, no sponsorships at all.
All right, and up next on Tokyo Panic Room, we're going to be talking about how Japan tracked 8 Russian and Chinese warships near its territory.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Tokyo Wave.
Tokyo Panic Room.
Uh-oh. I think we're going to have an exciting episode of Tokyo Panic Room today.
This is an actual panic, kind of, sort of.
So CNN recently reported that at least 8 Russian and Chinese warships, have been spotted in the seas near Japan. More uh-ohs the week of June 20th. That's this week, Aaron. Another sign of the apparent pressure the two partners have been putting on Tokyo as relations deteriorate over Ukraine and Taiwan, respectively.
On June 21st, Japan's defense ministry said its forces had observed 5 Russian warships led by an anti-submarine destroyer steaming through the Tsushima Strait, which separates Japan and South Korea. It should be noted that Russia only has 20 warships.
So basically, 1/4 of them just decided to
sail around,
hang out around Japan.
Yeah, they're just right now hanging out very close by.
Maybe they just want to watch Japanese TV.
Maybe.
Very low possibility. So the Japan Ministry of Defense said in a news release that the 5-ship Russian flotilla, God, that's a cool name, has been near Japanese islands for close to a week, from Hokkaido in the north to Okinawa in the south. So essentially, across the whole damn country.
Yeah, that's a pretty wide area.
They must be fast warships.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at least 2 Chinese warships and a supply ship were spotted on June 21st in the Izu Islands, about 500 kilometers or 310 miles south of the capital of Tokyo. One of those ships appeared to be the Lhasa, a Type 55 guided missile destroyer and one of China's most powerful surface ships. Well, I don't know. Thinking about this doesn't make me feel so comfortable being in Tokyo right now.
Type 55 guided missile destroyer. It's called a destroyer. I wonder what that ship is for.
And I guess it's got 55 guided missiles on it, ready to destroy stuff?
No. It's just a Type 55.
Okay.
It probably has more than 55 guided missiles on it. So it's one of China's most powerful surface ships.
Wow. Yikes.
Oh my God, Aaron. So I just looked up the Lhasa, and it is a brand new ship, just launched in 2018. Old in iPhone years, but new in ship years. It is 13,000 tons. It's 180 meters long. That's almost 600 feet. And all right, weapons. Let's see what kind of weapons it has. It's got one 130 millimeter gun. It's got one CIWS close-in weapon system. That doesn't sound very nice. It's got one short-range surface-to-air missile, 24-cell launcher, and yes, as I suspected, the Type 54 has more than 54. It has 112 vertical launching systems.
Wow. So I guess, China's just having fun sailing this around Japan, seeing what's going to happen next.
I forgot to mention, it's got 2 sets of torpedoes.
Oh, nice. That's great.
Don't forget the torpedoes.
Yeah. I brought this up to my family back in the States that we're kind of surrounded right now by Russian ships and Chinese warships. And nobody's heard about this. Not a lot of people are talking about this either.
You don't see this on the news in Japan either.
I did see one highlight like 4 or 5 days ago, but it was like a blip. And then on to the next thing. Johnny Depp. Just kidding. That was not on Japanese TV. But,
No, Johnny Depp definitely was on Japanese TV.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I missed it.
They were talking about the poop.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
You missed the best part.
Oh, man.
Well, anyway, while the Japanese media wasn't talking too much about this, it does seem to be some potentially not so great news. The ministry has said that the group of ships has been operating in waters near Japan since June the 12th, so almost 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. James Brown, associate professor of political science at Temple University in Tokyo, said,
And the godfather of Seoul.
Let's not forget that one. This is an obvious show of force from both Russia and China. These activities are a major worry for Japan. Not least, tracking the movements of both Russian and Chinese military forces are a strain on the resources of the Japan's self-defense forces. He says it's a strain, but kind of important to keep tabs on where these ships are,
Yeah, it might not be a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I'm actually happy that the Japan Self-Defense Forces is tracking these ships circling around us like a bunch of sharks in one of those shark movies.
Yeah. God. Yeah, I hope to God the U.S. military is at least like looking at this. I'm sure they are. They've got to have drones just like monitoring everything.
Yeah, where are destroyer ships? We need the, USS bad motherfucking ship.
Well, I'm not a military strategic expert, obviously, but if you're putting 1/4 of your destroyer/warships into another sovereign nation's waters, usually don't you want to be kind of sneaky about it? Because the U.S. ships, they actually try to not they try their best to not publicly show everyone where the ships are located.
Well, I think that it's more of this sort of posturing than it's an actual operation. Obviously, They want to show Japan that, we heard you guys don't like us, but hey, we got all these warships and we're just gonna, cruise around here and watch your TV programs where you dumb celebrities eat delicious food here for a minute. We're also very drunk.
No, for sure. I mean, definitely them sending ships into this area, the Japanese archipelago, is is posturing and also kind of saying like, hey, if anything happens, we can take over this area very quickly. Not even like necessarily an invasion, but just control the waters. I've thought for a while, if a big war does break out in Asia, Japan will instantly become the most important area because it literally, like geographically, if you look at it, it's almost like a shield between the West and Asia, right?
Aaron, please don't call Japan a shield. Because you know what happens to shields.
They get fired at. But I mean, it really is. I mean, like geopolitically and strategically speaking, whoever controls the archipelago is probably going to be winning the war. So
Sounds like you played too much Risk.
StarCraft.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah, same thing. Not the same thing, but very close.
So there was no claim from Tokyo that the Russian and Chinese naval groups were coordinating their actions like they did last October when a total of 10 Russian and Chinese warships jointly participated in exercises in which they circumnavigated much of the Japanese archipelago. Just because why not?
You know, maybe they were just actually taking a tour of Japan because no one can come into Japan right now. And like
Just looking at it from a distance, ooh, those are some nice islands.
they have these big, like, you know, military like binoculars and cameras, and they can get like nice pictures of the ajisai flowers and the sakura like in different areas. More recently, as Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida hosted a summit of the leaders of United States, Australia, and India in Tokyo, the Chinese and Russian air forces conducted joint strategic air patrols over the Sea of Japan and East China Sea and Western Pacific Ocean in what the Chinese Defense Military called part of an annual military cooperation plan.
Oh, so part of their annual plan is piss off Tokyo.
We are used to this to some extent, right? Like the U.S. does war games close to the South China Sea with South Korea, while North Korea, we all know, is constantly
Launching missiles into nowhere.
yeah, you know, everyone's in a not recently, but you know, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago, constant state of fear that North Korea is going to launch a nuke at some sovereign nation. But
Some sovereign nation
we are kind of used to this, right?
with a name that might start with J and end with a pan.
I mean, they did fire one over Hokkaido, and it like
They fired more than one.
yeah. So
They always seem to fire them into the same place north of Hokkaido.
yeah, it's totally insane.
So the godfather of Seoul and Temple University Japan professor James Brown said that Kishida's hosting of the Quad Summit was just one reason Beijing would want to show its displeasure with Tokyo.
Brown also said, quote, Beijing has been angered by Japanese statements regarding the security of Taiwan, which the Chinese Communist Party considers a domestic matter.
In fact, it was at the Tokyo Quad Summit that President Joe Biden said that the United States would intervene militarily if China attempts to take Taiwan by force. The White House later walked back that comment, but as we know, the U.S. does maintain a powerful military presence in Japan, troops that could come into play in any potential conflict over Taiwan.
I think Biden's comments are one thing that's really driving this kind of posturing and increased amount of posturing, because he did say very bluntly that if you touch Taiwan, you know, we're going to intervene, which I really don't think the U.S. would intervene immediately. I think it'd be a Russia-Ukraine situation. And to be honest, I think China could take over Taiwan very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a Russia-Ukraine situation because the Ukraine is like lasting out.
Yeah.
I don't think Taiwan would be so lucky.
Yeah.
So, unlike Russia, which seems to plan its military strategy like it's a drinking game, China tends to be very strategic with its military actions.
Right. I have also read too that, you know, some people believe that if China were to attempt such a thing with Taiwan, they would do so to try to minimize casualties, mainly by, you know, having, you know, certain kinds of people already in Taiwan to help coordinate, some kind of attack or basically overthrow the country.
Like a coup d'etat.
Like a coup d'etat, yeah. So just very, very quickly, minimal casualties, just take control of government of the country, right?
Well, people not familiar with the geopolitical situation surrounding Taiwan and mainland China, they have been governed separately ever since the defeated nationalists retreated to the island at the end of the Chinese Civil War more than 70 years ago.
But China's ruling Chinese Communist Party views the self-ruled island as part of its territory, despite having never controlled it.
Beijing has not ruled out the possibility of using military force to take Taiwan, and Japan sees conflict across the Taiwan Strait as a direct threat to its security.
Which it is. I mean, if anything like that broke out, we're very close, right? And Japan has a lot of sea and area that's very close to that. So Brown also noted that Moscow has been angered by Tokyo's support for Ukraine after Russian forces invaded their European neighbor nearly 4 months ago. That support has included imposing sanctions on Moscow and expelling Russian diplomats.
Regarding this part of the equation, Brown stated, quote, Russia therefore wishes to use its military power to intimidate Japan in the hope that this will deter Tokyo from imposing further such measures. Hit me now!
Brown described the fact that this week's naval actions by Russia and China did not seem to be coordinated as a, quote, silver lining for Tokyo, stating, Japan's strategic nightmare is a genuine alliance between Russia and China. And I don't think that's just Japan. I think that's for the US and the rest of the Western world. We definitely don't want to see a strong military alliance between China and Russia.
Yeah, that would kind of suck. And it looks like it's gonna happen.
Are you an American in Tokyo? Are you sitting on your ass with nothing to do? Come down to Yokosuka base and join the fight. We'll strap you up with the most advanced military artillery available, and you'll be dropped off by helicopter into the heat of the battle. If you've seen the movie Rambo, you know what happens next.
I'll cry when I'm done killing.
So, if you're sitting on your ass and you're an American in Tokyo, come on down to Yokosuka. We've got the equipment. We just need you.
We just need you.
We've got what it takes to take them down. We just need you.
Easier than I thought.
You're gonna give us automatic weapons? Awesome! This is so much cooler than airsoft!
So hopefully what we just joked about does not happen, but us, Japan, and the US, I'm sure will be monitoring the activity of the warships very closely over the next couple weeks.
And if a military conflict does break out, Yokosuka, please send 2 M4A1s and 5 bazookas to Harajuku each. And lots of ammo. We need ammo.
Make sure to throw in some of those stim packs.
And some C4? Everybody loves C4.
Hey listeners, that's right, you listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.